You see, check this out, people, life could be worse. Life could be worse. Think about it, it could be worse. All right? It is what it is. And this right here.
Welcome back to part 2 of our deep dive into the allegations against Diddy. In part 1, we took a look at the lawsuits filed against his label and the stories of the artists who never reached the success they deserved under his management. But today, we're shifting the focus directly to the man himself, Diddy, and the disturbing claims that have surfaced about his personal behavior. Before we get into those allegations, let's touch on a couple of points I didn't fully address in part 1. First, when rapper Black Rob passed away in 2021, Diddy made a public gesture to cover the funeral costs and hospital bills. To many, it looked like he was trying to paint himself as a savior, but Black Rob's manager, Cal Dawson, had something very different to say. Dawson called out Diddy as a phony, claiming Diddy and those who spoke highly of him were nowhere to be found when Black Rob needed them the most. None of them visited Rob in the hospital, but they suddenly showed up in the press after his passing. Then there's Mark Curry, another artist who was once part of Diddy's bad boy roster. Curry wrote a book detailing his experiences with Diddy, exposing the side of the music mogul that rarely makes the headlines. Through his writing, Curry pulls back the curtain on a toxic environment that he and others endured while working with Diddy. Both Black Rob and Mark Curry, men who spent years in Diddy's inner circle, also witnessed behavior that ties into the allegations of aggression towards women that Diddy now faces. Although they've admitted to seeing him act aggressively with women, they, like many others, never came forward when it mattered. It's only now, years later, in interviews and media discussions that they're finally speaking out. This raises the question, why didn't they speak up back then? In part 2, we're digging into those personal allegations, looking at Diddy's pattern of behavior, and asking why it's taken so long for the truth to come to light. We'll also look at the culture of silence and how these allegations reflect the music industry's darker side. Let's get into it.
Yeah, so the reason why it's going to be a part 2 is because there is so much that went on within the reign of this abuse and this relationship between Diddy and Cassie. It feels even wrong to call it a relationship when describing it to you guys, to be completely honest, because she was abused on so many levels. I mean, you want to talk about footage? This woman was recorded by him having sexual relations with male prostitutes that Diddy paid and hired off of the streets to come and have sex with her and force her to have sex with them. And he would repeatedly assault her physically and sexually all the time, every single day of their relationship.
Before diving further into the allegations, let's quickly go over how Diddy and Cassie's relationship began. They first met in 2006 when Cassie was signed to Diddy's label Bad Boy Records after the success of her hit single Me and You.
I've been so busy, but I've been thinking about what I wanna do with you. I know them other guys.
What started as a professional connection soon turned personal, with the two entering into a long-term relationship. However, while things seemed glamorous on the outside, behind the scenes their relationship quickly took a darker turn, with rumors of control and manipulation beginning to surface.
She had the strength to leave multiple times, yet he used a lot of his resources and his connections to find her. He'd actually have people reach out to her and convince her to come back to him. Even though social media wasn't a thing, you could still block people's number, not pick up. You could still, easily ghost people. So he would have friends of a friends of a friends of a friend or mutuals reaching out to her to convince her to come back. Even in the footage of the hotel, the footage that took place at that hotel, even then in that situation, when she returned and was convinced by mutuals to come back, even after what he did to her in the hallway, she came back to the hotel because people gaslit her and manipulated her into thinking that she was bad for running away and leaving him, and that's why he acted the way he acted, and that she should forgive him. She comes back and the hotel staff are even like, we're not letting you through the door. Like, you know that, right? Like, we literally saw on camera him throwing you, grabbing you, beating you, kicking you, and dragging you and throwing glass at you. You're here at the doorstep of the hotel. What are you doing here? Go back to your apartment where you're safe. Like, if it wasn't for the staff there she would have willingly gone back inside, and who knows what could have happened. Of course, even then, she still ended up with him again. Shame on the people who were aiding him in doing such things. I wonder if he even lied to his affiliates and tried to make it seem like he just lost connection with her and needs to get a hold of her. Or I wonder if they know what's going on or if they even bothered asking, because I remember being kind of monkey in the middle of a similar situation where I was really good friends with two people who had gone out. She broke up with him because he had a serious drinking issue that he is healed and moved on from, and we're very happy for him. He used old colleagues and friends that we all were mutuals with to reach out to her and do the same shit. Like, she'd break up with him and he'd have someone like block his number, not talk to him. She ended up receiving messages from old friends and colleagues trying to get them back together. The thing is, they wouldn't have done it for him if they knew that she wanted nothing to do with him. Like, she wanted no contact. She explained that the relationship had been a bit toxic due to his drinking issues, and that she'd really appreciate it if people would stop messaging her for him and like passing messages along. I remember going to him about it and holding him accountable. And I basically told him that real friends don't just play along and, condone this kind of behavior. I told him it was wrong. I told him it was wrong that he lied to me and didn't tell me her wishes and where she was at in the relationship, and that me messaging her would have actually been such a big violation of her privacy, mentally and emotionally. Like, her health would have been compromised doing that because of how traumatic her experience was with him during their relationship. He owned up to it. He apologized. But the thing is like, I laid him out on the spot. So I don't understand why there's no similar accountability, because this relationship went on for years. So for years, he had people reaching out to her each time she escaped with her life and having them tell her to come back and pass on messages to her. And I wonder if they were ever threatening, or if he tried to censor himself even with his friends, even through his affiliates, or if he straight up like had them passing on messages of abuse, like, you better fucking come back here or I'm gonna fucking kill you. You know what I mean? And it's just really disheartening to think about. And that footage, I thought it wasn't available to the public because it had been sealed by the court due to the fact that it was a part of a very like high profile lawsuit between a rap artist, another known rap artist, and record label owner of Bad Boys, manager basically of like Biggie Smalls and all this shit. I thought that for sure like we didn't see that footage, or that footage didn't see the light of day because of that, when really it's because Diddy has allegedly, and I have to say allegedly, it's been confirmed, or sorry, allegedly it's been claimed that he paid security, or whomever had access to that footage at the hotel, I would assume security, $50,000. There's that number again. $50,000 to bribe a staff of the hotel to keep the footage hidden and sealed from the public eye, and has not been confirmed or denied. I think it was like called Hotel International or something like that. Even the hotel, lucky for them, has been shut down and closed, because I think if they were still operating, they'd have a lot of people at their doorsteps or calling to speak with someone in regards to the fact that this was swept under the rug and it was done with the assistance of someone that worked at this location during that time of their visit. I just can't believe it. Again, no fucking accountability. I feel like if I had witnessed what happened on the cameras and it was to the point where staff were literally telling Cassie not to return to the hotel, I would have told that guy that he can go fuck himself. And or I would have taken I'm sorry. I would have taken the money. Gladly, I would have taken that fucking money. However, I would have screwed his ass over so fast, and I would have given it to Cassie, I would have given it to the police, and I would have given it to the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, because I know that out of those three areas, repercussions were to happen. Because now where we're at, thanks to that fucking piece of shit who accepted that money and did as was requested by him, Cassie is not able to use that footage in a court of law to sue Diddy for assault and everything under the sun that takes place in that video, because it is, I believe, 10 years old, but it is basically past the legal limit for it to be used in prosecution. So basically, footage evidence has a deadline, and if you don't use it right away as evidence, and so she can't use it. Her lawsuit happened, I think, in 2018. I believe that footage takes place in 2016. What breaks my heart is that she could have gotten the justice that she deserved, first of all. Second of all, she also could have left him sooner because of that. Whoever did that fucked her life up even further. Like, obviously, she is a child. She's married. She's happy now. It's not like life is the end. She's moved on. She's doing great. It just feel like justice could have been met faster. Assault took place on May 5th, 2016. She filed a lawsuit against him in 2018 for the actions that were done upon her during their relationship, irregardless. However, that footage would have been a huge aid in the lawsuit because her lawsuit again was settled out of court literally the next day. Basically, his lawyers got together. They just pulled the old fashioned, you have money. What if we just offer a large chunk of money to basically sweep this under the rug, get it over with, and get her out of your hair? And that's what they did. They sat down, they settled. She accepted a fixed amount to move on from this. And that was that. He never faced any fucking charges. And then this video surfaces and he puts out some weak ass fucking apology on Instagram.
I'm so sorry, but I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
I'm not that same person. I'm not proud of who I was, and I've grown. I've come a long way. Buddy, it's textbook fucking shitty ass apology. It's really just for you to save your ass and seem like you're, somewhat sympathetic, so the people that don't have any brain cells will come to believe it for what it is. You're really not fooling anybody. His true colors are just disgusting. You know, I don't want to say it's a theory because there's been some evidence accumulating to maybe these situations being real. Puff Camp. I mean, this is another, I'm blanking on the fucking word. This is another scandal. This is another scandal, okay? Like, not scandal and like stealing people's money, but like this is another thing that people were like, yo, I think Diddy did this. So Justin Bieber and Usher, who were discovered by Diddy through YouTube, had taken these artists at a young age under his wing, mentored them, taught them. However, Diddy discovered Usher and then Usher discovered Justin Bieber. There's a lot of talk about Diddy Camp or Puff Camp. I may not be saying the right term, but there was this like talk. Well, not talk. It came from Diddy. Diddy mentioned this camp where he would take these artists and train them and do things that they couldn't necessarily disclose. I mean, he mentions that in a video side by side with Justin Bieber where he says, we can't disclose what we're going to be doing, but we're going to have a good time. Something along the lines of that. And Justin Bieber's face looks so unsettled. It's not even funny. And he kind of like looks a little alarmed. Like, what do you mean we can't talk about it? Because he probably had a reasonable thought that if you can't talk about it on camera, then what are we doing? It might kind of trail to the thought that if you can't say it out loud, it may not be appropriate.
So check this out, yo. Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, you know, where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. You know, I have been given custody of him. You know, he signed to Usher.
I'm signed to Usher.
I had legal guardianship of Usher when you know he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So and we gonna go full crazy.
I'm going crazy.
Crazy.
I'm taking this out tonight.
What you want to do? What you want to do over the next 48 hours?
48 hours. Let's go. Let's just go get some girls. Let's go hang with some girls.
And then there's this interview with Usher and a radio station host who asks him, now that he's a parent, would he let his children go to Puffy Camp, you know, anything related? And he, without hesitation, says no.
To New York City. And I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you over to something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor Camp.
Yeah,
Flavor
that's
Camp.
what it was called.
But hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle.
Right.
And I saw it, and it was, but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild.
So nobody tried to, some woman didn't come along.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that. What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place, and I didn't necessarily understand.
You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy camp?
Hell no.
See? Then there's this other footage of Justin Bieber being confronted in a way by Diddy, where he's questioned by Diddy why he's not talking to him and why he hasn't seen him. Justin Bieber immediately looks visibly uncomfortable by the question and by the encounter. I feel like this is like those moments as a woman when you get asked a number by a guy and you're kind of panicking, you're comfortable, you're nervous. You don't know how to handle the situation because you don't want to upset the individual, but you don't also want to compromise any boundaries. So you kind of have this hesitation. That's what this video reminds me of, because you know what he does next that I feel like some of us gals did before we found our cojones is, yeah, like let me get your number, or let me give you my number, and we give it to them, but we don't have any plans to reach out, text, call. We probably block it, delete it, get rid of it.
I'm good. How are you?
Young brother, everything's good?
Everything's
Selling
great.
out arenas and everything? Starting to act different, huh? You ain't been calling me and hanging out the way we used to hang out.
Well, I mean, you haven't.
And pretend it never happened.
I mean, you try to get in contact with me, through all my, partners and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But you never really got my number, so.
Right. Okay.
My number?
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you my number.
Yeah.
It's 555.
Yes. Okay.
5555.
Okay. 55. You heard that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm here to, because you've been a big supporter of mine, all jokes aside. This right here is my young brother right here. He's been a big supporter of mine. My album's coming out, and, we got the crew going around now. You in New York City, and we got the Dirty Money crew, and we wanted to make you an official member of the Dirty Money crew.
Are you
all right?
serious?
There you go.
Justin Bieber, he's a boy, and this is another man asking him for his number and questioning why he hasn't been talking to him is really creepy. You're a grown man questioning a child why they're not talking to you. I get it, you can easily be like, oh, well, Justin Bieber's a musician and Diddy's a producer. He owns a label. It's like, sure, but that doesn't seem to be the context of what's happening here. There's a difference between starting out the transaction like, hey, I thought we were working on this song. Were you still interested? Did you still want to link up with this artist we have? Blah, blah. Versus, why aren't you talking to me? Why haven't you called me? Like, he's dead serious on the questions. He doesn't have any interest in discussing music with Justin Bieber. It's just really weird. It's really uncomfortable just watching the body language and how this encounter unfolds between the two, specifically on Justin Bieber's side. I guess there's some footage of like Justin Bieber in the club, and he's kind of at the level, like his face, his head is at the level of another grown man's groin area. And you can see in the camera footage, Justin Bieber turns around. There's acknowledgement that a camera is present, and he quickly turns and starts acting natural, like nothing was happening. It could have just been timing. It could have just been the angle, but it's concerning. It just seems out of place, and it seems because of that suspicious. It seems really weird. I kind of think back to like Justin Bieber and how he had a bit of a reckless phase in the media's eyes. I mean, paparazzi was getting video and footage of him peeing in a janitor's bucket and getting drunk, being reckless. I mean, I kind of have always wondered if it's because of the things that he dealt with in his childhood he couldn't clearly speak of or exploit, because who knows what other tactics Diddy uses to silence people besides money. I mean, when you have money like that, it's easy to use reinforcements to silence people or scare them into silence. It makes me wonder if that was him lashing out. And now he's extremely religious. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just think that perhaps it was a part of some healing for him. And now he has no relation with that side of the industry at all since he was able to break away. I don't know if that was thanks to Scooter. I don't know if Scooter got him out of that or if Scooter may be just as guilty. Man, I just wonder always, like, where are the parents? I mean, like, I understand your child rose to fame and you want them to like get out there and really dive into the industry, but you also have to keep in mind that they're children. They're not adults, and you're having them go be with adults and do adult activities, and the power dynamics are just not matching, and they shouldn't even be in the same room as a child. If you're gonna have him go to clubs and hang out with these people, be with them. Like, that doesn't change. I don't like, you go to a park, you don't just drop them off and leave them by themselves on a fucking regular day before fame. Why would you do it after? Why would you let them go take him somewhere by himself where he's never been and he's not familiar with? And again, he's a child, he's not able and possibly capable of being able to help himself with certain things, or assess or assert boundaries with these power dynamics. You have adults around partying who are also not right in the head, who are probably encouraging him to drink, smoke, do all sorts of shit that should really wait until you're of legal age. A lot of people have appointed Usher as finding Justin Bieber and bringing him to Diddy to kind of protect himself from being abused by Diddy further. Like, he kind of used Justin Bieber as fresh meat and was like, here, take him. I'm not saying that they're far off, but I'm not saying that they're not on the nose. Every single case he's had against the label was in regards to improper compensation, pretty much refusing to pay people for their labor, for their work, and then also royalties, and not funding the artists themselves, not advertising, not putting them out there. Because again, we didn't have advertisements when watching YouTube or when scrolling through Instagram or TikTok. Advertisements came from the label and were funded through the label. Billboards, newspapers, interviews, radio interviews, everything to get it out there. He didn't do that and refused to do that for a lot of the artists that tried to break their contract and leave the label. I mean, the fact that 9 people out of a short list of artists that have, and those are only like 9 that we know of, out of all the artists that have been signed under that label, have tried to break their contract and leave for very similar issues. And the lawsuits facing Diddy personally are all the same. They're all sexual harassment in regards to him being physically violent. So he always settles the cases outside of court to pay people off. So it saves his ass, because let's face it, if he did have to go through court and have a lawyer dig through all the details and the evidence and the documentation that these people have, it would make him look bad. But instead, his lawyers weasel in the ability to talk people into settling for a fixed amount. And I understand for some cases that's just as far as it's going to go. But I feel like with these sexual assault cases, a lot of them have been purposely and intentionally dismissed. And he claims his victims are just trying to get a quick payday because he's such a fucking low piece of shit. Hi guys, Future Tyler here, and upon editing, we have come across some recent developments that have honestly halted this part 2. I have been watching the news and everything has just been developing in regards to Diddy and all of these allegations. I mean, he was officially, I don't know what the proper word would be, but he was officially a confirmed criminal. I had to kind of cut through and just deliver these updates to you because this is definitely a part of part 2. I mean, this is everything we've been talking about. This is happening in real time. It's crazy, honestly, to think that this has been going on for 15 freaking years. And I'm sorry, I had to take notes because what I'm about to tell you next is a lot to handle. And again, this is recent developments in regards to Diddy and him being under investigation for these allegations. I mean, everything that people have been saying thus far is true. It's coming to light. It's being confirmed by authorities, by professionals, you fucking name it. And just evidence that was collected during the raids of his own homes, his own properties throughout Malibu, Florida, California, I believe, New York. I mean, this is not just, he said, she said anymore. This is all starting to be confirmed one by one. Everything from the Usher allegations to the Justin Bieber allegations to the Cassie allegations. I mean, obviously we have a video to prove how he was towards Cassie, but I mean, everything else besides what was seen on that video is being confirmed. This is crazy. First recent development is these freak-off parties and sex trafficking. Diddy is accused of orchestrating elaborate sex parties known as freak-offs, which involve multiple commercial sex workers and lasted several days. These events were reportedly highly controlled by Diddy, who allegedly used his power and influence to coerce women into participating. He would often record these acts without their knowledge and distributed various drugs to keep the women compliant. Okay, the drug use during these events was so severe that participants, including Diddy, were said to receive IV fluids right after everything was done, concluded, in order to recover afterward, like in order for people to not die of exhaustion because of how strenuous these parties were, like because of the things he would push them to do. Like there's some things I don't even think I can mention on here. Second thing is violence and intimidation. So the indictment claims that Diddy used physical violence and threats of harm to maintain control over his victims. This includes acts of kidnapping, arson, and financial threats aimed at keeping participants silent. He also allegedly monitored the victims' locations, medical records, and personal details as a part of his abuse. I don't know how someone gets their hands on someone else's information unless they threatened that person to give it to them, because any doctor handing out someone else's medical information is a piece of shit and is doing something completely illegal. But yeah, the freak-off parties basically confirmed because victims obviously were coming forward and speaking about this, and they were obviously subpoenas, legal filings, which describe how these events were carefully orchestrated by Diddy, like their own testimony. Women were reportedly recruited, provided with drugs, and pressured into participating in multi-day sexual performances. The parties were also recorded by Diddy without their consent. The raids on Diddy's properties further supported this claim when authorities seized supplies like narcotics and I can't make this shit up. Not only were narcotics confiscated, but 1,000 bottles of baby oil used in these freak-off parties were also confiscated and found within, I think, all of his properties, if not one. Still, there's no fucking reason or anything as to why this man needs 1,000 fucking bottles of baby oil in his house on demand. That is the most sketchiest fucking thing ever, out of context. Like, that's just, if I didn't know this fucking guy and I rolled up in his house, I don't know if I was like housekeeping and I just happened to come across a room with 1,000 bottles of baby oil, that's gotta be like stored as if it was like in a warehouse or something. I mean, why would you just have 1,000 bottles of it in a single place, a single facility, a single house, a single room? That would be alarming to me. I'd be like, none of my business. I'm just here to do a job. But that would be alarming. I'd be like, what the fuck does this guy do? Does he do porn? And it's so like gross to even say that out loud, because yeah, he was recording these people. He was recording these sessions for his own stash, for his own pleasure. These are the kinds of things like I kind of have to tiptoe around when mentioning on here, because he was also reported by various victims who were within these freak-off parties that he would also masturbate and pleasure himself to these people having sexual intercourse with each other, or however he was orchestrating that session, like that. I don't know, I don't want to call it a session, but you know what I mean. Several victims have come forward describing how Diddy used violence such as physical assault and arson to control them. In one lawsuit, his ex-girlfriend Cassie described incidents of violent abuse and kidnapping as part of Diddy's intimidation tactics. This was further supported by the raids, where authorities discovered AR-15 rifles. Oh, that's an S at the end of rifle. Not one, but multiple, with defaced serial numbers in Diddy's possession. Jesus, man, what have we not done? Like, I just am asking that, but I also really hope this is it, because this is thus far everything that has developed. Like, this is it. This is basically possibly barely the tip of the iceberg type shit, Involvement of Diddy's employees. This is another recent development. Diddy's staff, including security assistants and supervisors, reportedly played a key role in facilitating these sex parties by booking travel for victims and ensuring the parties were stocked with necessary supplies like baby oil, including drugs and other materials. They were also accused of cleaning up after the events to avoid detection of any kind, any sort of evidence, any sort of residue left behind, basically. So his staff was all in on it and aware of the things that he was doing because they were helping him plan these things, essentially. So they are accomplices, whether they like it or not. And as employees, I don't know how much you're getting paid. Even then, it's not worth it. I would have left that fucking job so fast. I don't know how they thought that was going to play out. Like, I guess they really were even so convinced themselves that he was never going to get caught, right? Yeah, their involvement was corroborated by legal testimony in multiple lawsuits and investigations where victims detailed how employees would set up these gatherings and even help clean up afterwards. So that pretty much was how it was confirmed. Next development is the raids on the properties. Federal authorities conducted raids on Diddy's properties in Miami and Los Angeles earlier this year.
As part of this investigation, in March of this year, special agents from HSI executed search warrants at Combs' residences in Miami and Los Angeles. They also executed a warrant for Combs' electronic devices. During those searches, agents seized evidence of the crimes charged in this indictment. They also seized evidence of the freak-offs, electronic devices that contain images and videos of the freak-offs with multiple victims. And they seized cases and cases of the kinds of personal lubricant and baby oil that Combs' staff allegedly used to stock hotel rooms for the freak-offs. More than 1,000 bottles altogether. Here are some of the items that we recovered during the searches. As you can see here, this is a drum magazine, large capacity, and it contains, I believe, 59 rounds. I mentioned as well we recovered 3 AR-15s. This is a close-up shot of one of the AR-15s, and you can see right here the serial number has been thoroughly defaced. Another picture of more ammunition and parts of 2 AR-15s right there.
These raids have further strengthened the case against Diddy, which is really good, who faces multiple charges related to drug possession with intent to distribute. So drug dealing, illegal arms dealing, I believe, illegal drug dealing, sex trafficking, racketeering, kidnapping, uncovered the controlled substances like cocaine, ketamine, and GHB, which is often used in drug-facilitated sexual assaults. Next is his attempts to silence victims, which we kind of already got the vibe from Diddy within part 1 and a bit of part 2. As we can kind of gather, he's no stranger to keeping people silent, hence contributing to silence culture, trying to keep himself protected. Diddy allegedly harassed victims, pressured witnesses through bribery, attempting to silence them and prevent cooperation with law enforcement. This kind of reminds us of Cassie and that hotel video and why it was delayed reaching the public's eye, right? He had basically bribed and paid the security or whomever had access to the surveillance footage of that hotel $50,000 to keep that shit under wraps, to basically keep himself protected, as we discovered. In some cases, victims were hidden away for days to recover from injuries inflicted by Diddy. I kind of read that these freak-offs and these parties would result in injuries that would last from like days to weeks for some people, if not months. And as more details of the alleged crime surfaced in 2023, Diddy reportedly tried to offer false narratives to cover his tracks. He's also very quick to, again, as I kind of mentioned in part 1 or part 2, I believe that he was quick to claim that the people who attempted to sue him were just in for a get-rich-quick scheme or just looking for a quick payday or something like that. I feel that's kind of like one of his go-tos when people try to sue him over something is like, oh, you want money? Here, let me just give you money. Very disgusting. Evidence of Diddy attempting to silence his victims has been documented through both victim accounts and phone recordings. 2 of these phone calls were reportedly recorded and are part of the evidence. I'm not sure what phone call they're referencing when I was doing my research, but I guess someone caught him red-handed and was recording their conversation. Last but not least, Diddy is facing multiple lawsuits right now. Given all the evidence and the details and the testimonies from various victims, from the freak-off parties and just in general, this evidence, the raiding of his houses, the the baby oil and shit. Sorry, the light keeps bothering me in my fucking glasses, but we're just gonna have to deal with it because, again, I'm just trying to edit this and get this into part 2 because this has been happening. Everything's been happening so fast. Like, we might need to do a part 3, people. I don't know, but we will if we need to. We will if we fucking need to, trust. And dude, everything is coming to light. I'm so happy for the victims. I'm so happy for anybody that has been wronged by this person. Everybody that has been affected by this fucking monster in one way or another. I am so happy for them that they finally get what they need to bring justice to all those involved and capable of receiving it. Because again, some of these people have been having issues with him since the dawn of time. Like Cassie, again, kind of like we discussed, that she's not able to use that footage from the hotel given how long it had surfaced, basically, from when it initially occurred. One high-profile case involving his ex-girlfriend Cassie was settled quickly, but several other cases remain pending, remain open. And it's quite a lot. It's quite a lot. It's not just 1 or 2, it's a couple. It's like more than 5. We were just discussing history, and now all of this shit is coming back to bite him in the ass actively. We get to see his downfall. This is crazy. People will read about this years from now. We get to actually witness justice being had in real time. I don't know if Harvey Weinstein ever got the punishment, the consequences of his actions that he deserved. I haven't really read up on that case myself, but it's nice to really see silent culture being shattered, broken, and people being held accountable for their actions. I really, really love, I believe it was like the head of the New York Police Department, I'm not sure, I could be wrong, but the gentleman representing the authorities of New York or the authorities and professionals on this case, I love what he says, which is basically...
Now, I want to be clear about 2 things. First, this office is determined to investigate and prosecute anyone who engages in sex trafficking, no matter how powerful or wealthy or famous you may be. No one should doubt our commitment on that. A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City. Today, he's been indicted and will face justice in the Southern District of New York. Second, we are not done. This investigation is ongoing, and I encourage anyone with information about this case to come forward and to do it quickly. Anyone with information can call 1-877-4HSI-TIP. I want to express my deep appreciation for the victims and witnesses who have used their voices and helped bring this criminal conduct to light. We would not be here without them.
And I fucking love that. And that's basically what's happening. I love this. I feel like the floodgate has finally fucking opened. I feel like the whistleblowers who have actively been trying to get this out there can finally stop blowing the whistle. Everything is finally being taken care of, and I am so happy for the victims. And again, anyone that is involved in these legal proceedings, or the trauma that this man has bestowed. I mean, these freak-off parties, I think they were also confirmed to be mostly of men. I almost forgot to mention that. Like, mostly men attended these parties. Like, this guy very well could have had sexual relations with Meek Mill. As we discussed in part 1, that audio that was leaked could very well be real. It's a very big possibility now. It's not just a bunch of he said, she said, or, oh, that could have easily been edited and made to be something it's not. Like, no, now this is all being confirmed. It's crazy. I don't know what to say. I honestly will keep an eye on the news and the media. We will definitely do a part 3. I'm not sure, but we'll definitely do an update video if there are more developments or anything that hits the news. But everything thus far that's out there and that's being discussed and coming to light is insane. And I really, really, really hope that Diddy doesn't get scot-free, because here's the thing, here's the scary thought, right? Is that his lawyers have done such a fantastic fucking job of cleaning up after him in the past that they very well can help him now and find the loopholes that he needs in order to get away from the scot-free. That's how it works sometimes in the legal world. I'm just knocking on wood that he does not slip away. He does not get out of the grip of the law. I really, really do. I'm putting a bit of my faith and trust in the system, even though it is such shit and it fails us 9 out of fucking times. out of 10, clearly, because that's why we're here now. Like, this is why now he's being held accountable, is because power, money, and corruption was allowed so much back then. But you see a lot of authorities coming forward and holding their departments accountable, or holding their county accountable. And I hope these legal proceedings work in the favor of the victims. I really do. I cannot believe this. I'm really in shock. Thank you guys so much for watching and being here. If you're new here, please make sure to like and subscribe, especially if you enjoyed the video. If you're not new here, thanks for being a real G and sticking around. I really appreciate it, and I hope you also enjoyed your time here today. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you next time. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and what you also think may become true, may come to light, what you want to discuss in part 3 maybe. I really appreciate it. Take care. Love, peace, chicken grease.